During the math class, Mrs. Stevens had a task for the students. They had to say, what was 3 plus 3 times 3? 2 people raised their hands, and she asked both. Toby said that the answer was 18. Cassidy disagreed and said that the answer was 12. Who is right? Cassidy. The multiplication is always done first, so we multiply 3 by 3, that's 9. Then we add another 3 and get 12. It takes Genevieve 12 seconds to cut one loaf of bread into 5 pieces. How much time does she need to cut the same loaf into 6 pieces? "15 seconds to cut the bread into 5 pieces. She must make 4 cuts. If it takes her 12 seconds to make 4 cuts, it means she makes 1 cut in 3 seconds. If she now wants to cut the bread into 6 pieces, she needs to make 5 cuts. And since 5 cuts takes 3 seconds each, the combined time will be 15 seconds. How many years in the 21st century have had 365 days? Some of the years did have 366 days, and still, all of the years have had 365. So starting with 2001, it's been 20 years by now. No time to explain, but Tim needs to break into his mom's computer. The problem is that he doesn't know the passcode, but here's a hint. What's the passcode? Each consonant in the word equals 200 points, and each vowel takes away 100 points. In the word kiwi, there are 2 consonants that make 400 points. 2 vowels take away 200 points, so the passcode is 200. Lucas and Liam went for a walk. They found a cool tree and decided to climb up to the top of it. Who is less smart? Lucas. The branch he's going to use is about to crack. He's in for a nasty fall. Michael and Logan are bloggers. To boost their popularity, they decided to take selfies in dangerous places. Michael is taking a selfie while surfing a huge wave, and Logan is taking one standing on the edge of a bridge. Who is in greater danger? Michael. Logan at least has some people around. They'll notice if something happens and call the emergency services. Michael is alone. Thomas and Abigail were going on a date. Thomas arrived half an hour earlier and decided to go and buy some flowers. Abigail had just returned from London and was driving to meet the guy. Who is doing something wrong? Abigail. She's driving on the left side of the road. Elizabeth and Melanie are getting ready for a barbecue party in the garden. Elizabeth is cooking and Melanie is decorating the garden. Who is not smart? Elizabeth. While she's cooking, the meat is going bad in the sun. It was June, and students were going to have their most difficult exam. Each of them was assigned to a particular seat, but a professor was paying special attention to one of the students. He supposed they were going to cheat. Who was his suspect and why? It's this blonde girl. In June, the weather is great and all students are lightly dressed. And still, this girl is wearing high boots and a sweater with long sleeves. Ella got a new motorbike. She locked it in her garage and left for work. When she came back home and opened the garage, the motorbike was missing. The woman called the police. The officer interrogated 3 of her neighbors. Ryan said that he'd been away the whole day and hadn't seen anything. Colin said, "When I was walking the dog, the motorbike was still there." Jane said that she had come to Ella's house to ask her for some garden tools, but Ella hadn't been there, so she'd left. Who stole the motorbike? It was Colin. He said he'd seen the motorbike in the garage, but the door was closed, so he couldn't possibly spot the bike. Look at the sequence of letters. What should be the next one? Each of these letters is the first letter of some day of the week. S stands for Sunday, M for Monday, and then we've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. The only one that's left is Saturday, so we need an S. Mark was locked in a dungeon. There were 3 ways out, but none of them looked safe. Behind the first door, there was a huge and strong guard. Behind the second door, there were 3 big and very hungry dogs. Behind the third door, there were many little robots that were ready to charge at Mark at any second. Which way should the guy opt for to get out and stay safe? I'd say the third one. Although there are angry little robots, they're still super small and probably can't cause much harm. Emily woke up in a weird place she'd never been before. She looked around and saw 3 ways out. But there was a catch. Behind the first door, there was an iron block with a motion sensor that would crush everyone who entered the room. Behind the second door, there was an electric shock device that never missed. Behind the third door, there was broken glass all over the floor. Which way should Emily choose? She should pick the third door. She's wearing boots, so walking on the glass is definitely not going to be too hard of a task for her. Stella called the police and said that her friend had been poisoned. She told them what happened. I was supposed to meet with Alice, but I arrived too early. So I went to pick her up at her house. I knocked, but no one answered the door. The light was on, so I knew Alice must be at home. I had a spare key, so I opened the door myself. I found her in the room unconscious with an empty glass by her side. The police officer asked if Stella had touched anything. The girl said she had only touched the door, the glass, and her friend. After that, she got arrested. Why? She said the lights had been on, but she didn't say anything about touching the light switch. But when the police entered the house, the lights were off. Mrs. Donnell reported that she'd been robbed. She said, I was in the restaurant's bathroom fixing my makeup when someone approached me from behind and hit me on the head. I didn't see what this person looked like. The police sent the woman home and refused to fill the report. Why? The woman was fixing her makeup. This means she was looking in the mirror. If someone had tried to approach her from the back, she would have definitely seen this person. But she said she hadn't. She probably made the whole story up. A cleaning man was washing the windows in an office building and fell from the 3rd floor. Everyone agreed it must have been an accident. Luckily, Detective Callum was nearby. Once he came closer and saw what had happened, he concluded that it couldn't have been an accident. Someone pushed the man out of the window. How did he understand it? Look, the window the guy fell out of is now closed. If it had been just an accident, the window would still remain open. Sophia and Brooke went camping in the forest. Who is less smart? Brooke. Look, she's wearing heels. Nicole and Kate are late for work. They're both driving fast, breaking the speed limit. Which of them is in greater danger? Kate. She has many things lying around in her car. In case of an accident, something is likely to hit her. Jessica and Margot are jaywalking. Jessica is listening to music and Margot is texting her friend. Who is in greater danger? Jessica. Although they're both breaking the rules, Margot is doing it in a place where she can be easily noticed by drivers, and Jessica is jaywalking right where the road takes a turn. Drivers might not have enough time to react and stop. Allison and Maddie are doing housework. Allison is hanging the laundry outside, and Maddie is vacuum cleaning the basement. Who is less smart? Allison. She's hanging the laundry outside, but it's raining. After Theodore was shipwrecked, he found himself on a deserted island. Luckily, he still had his pills. There were 2 green and 2 yellow ones left. He needed to take 1 green and 1 yellow pill every day. The problem was that the man couldn't see anything at all and couldn't tell the color of the pills. There wasn't a soul around to help him. How can he manage it? Theodore should break each of the 4 pills into half and eat half of each of the 4. This way, he'll eat exactly 1 green and 1 yellow pill. Camilla and Vivian are sisters. For her birthday, Vivian got a beautiful bracelet. Camilla liked it too and occasionally borrowed it. One day, Vivian noticed that the bracelet was gone again. She knocked on her sister's door.
Oh, no.
Camilla opened it, saw Vivian, shut the door again, and locked it. Half a minute later, Vivian broke into the room and started searching for the bracelet, but she didn't find anything. Then she realized where the accessory was. Have you figured it out? Vivian remembered that when Camilla first opened the door, she had her hair down, but now she has her hair up. She has put her hair in a bun and hid the bracelet there.
So Charles found himself locked in a small room. He didn't know what had happened. Just then, he saw a door. He approached it and tried to open it, but it was locked. There were 3 buttons. On one button, there was a circle. On the second one, a triangle. On the third, a square. Charles didn't know which one would unlock the door. Luckily, though, there was a note. It said 1248. Which button should he press to get out? You might have noticed that there's a clock right above the door. It's there for a reason. If you draw lines connecting 12, 4, and 8, you get a triangle. So Charles should press the button with the triangle on it. Esme was having a regular walk in the forest and got lost. She wandered around all night in the dark. Just after sunrise, she came upon a witch's house. She had nowhere else to go, so she walked in and asked the witch to send her home. The witch agreed, but it wasn't going to be that easy. 3 magical doors appeared, and Esme had to decide which one to go through. Behind the first door, nothing but a deep pit. Behind the second door was a shower of toxic liquid. Behind the third door was an open space with a vampire waiting for her. Which way should Esme go? Well, it's already past sunrise. The vampire would be gone already, hiding out somewhere dark. Esme should pick the third door. Maybe Esme could have just jumped over the pit. What do you think? Take a look at these pictures. Which blogger is richer? The second one. Look at the number of likes. She has 17,000, but the first one only has 7,000. One of Mr. Smith's sons, Jaden, was taken. Several hours later, Mr. Smith and his younger son David received a letter. The letter stated that if they wanted to see Jaden again, they should round up $1 million cash and take it to a little shack in the woods. Mr. Smith and David decided to do it, and David took the money into the woods alone. But it didn't go as planned. David said that halfway to the shack, someone approached him from behind, hit him, and stole the money. There was an investigation, and a detective asked David what the robber looked like. David said that he had dark hair and a red hoodie with a black logo on it. The detective immediately figured out who had taken Jaden. Can you? It was David. He said the robber approached him from behind, but somehow he still managed to remember some pretty specific details about the robber. Nah, he made it all up. Abigail wanted to buy her mom the best birthday present ever. The problem was she had zero ideas. She decided to sneak into her mom's computer, go to her online shopping cart, and see what she had saved in there. When her mom left for work, Abigail sneaked into her home office and turned on the computer. Uh-oh, it required a password, and Abigail didn't know it. There was a sticky note attached to the keyboard. It was a clue. 1 apple, 2 orange, 2 kiwi, 1 lemon. Can you guess the password? Each number represents one letter of the word. A apple means the first letter, so A. Then we get P, R, I, and L. The password is April. Wow, her mom is really into fruit. A lady was shopping and left the store right after paying. A couple of minutes later, she returned. She had forgotten her wallet at the checkout counter. But the wallet was already gone. She called the police and reported the robbery. A detective interrogated the people who were in the store at the time. Sophia, the cashier, said she didn't see the wallet after the lady paid. Robert, a pilot who happened to be shopping there, said he didn't even see the wallet. He didn't have his glasses on. Mark, a landscaper, said he was in a different part of the store, so he didn't see anything. So, who stole the wallet? It was Robert, the pilot. He looks pretty blind without his glasses, so he's definitely not a pilot. Why would he lie about that? Unless… Amelia's brother, Neil, was a crazy scientist. In the past year, he had been working on a time machine. One day, he ran into Amelia's room and screamed. He'd done it! He'd invented a time machine and it totally worked. He said he had already tested it. He managed to talk to William Shakespeare, Princess Diana, and Sherlock Holmes. Amelia didn't believe him at all. Why was she so sure about it? Even if Neil had actually invented a time machine, he'd only have been able to talk to people who actually existed in real life. He said he talked to Sherlock Holmes. That guy's a character from a book and a TV show and a movie. Hey, that guy's everywhere. A woman called the police and reported that she had been robbed. She said she was in a restaurant bathroom fixing her makeup. Someone had come up from behind and hit her on the head, so she didn't know what the person looked like. The police sent her home and refused to fill out the report. Why? The woman was fixing her makeup, so she must have been looking in the mirror. She would have definitely seen someone sneaking up behind her. She lied and made up the whole story. Grab your detective hat and head over to Europe for this next one. Bill was traveling from Paris to Berlin by train. When the train got to Berlin, Bill wasn't on it. His friend reported him missing. The investigation began, and somewhere between Paris and Berlin, they found some interesting clues. There were footsteps that belonged to Bill, and a few feet away, his luggage. A detective found the person who had been sitting next to Bill on the train. His name was Sam. He said that Bill didn't have a ticket. When he saw the ticket inspector coming, he decided to make a run for it. He threw his suitcase off the train and then jumped. The detective didn't believe his story and arrested Sam for pushing Bill off the train. Why? Look at the direction the train was going. If Sam's story was true, the suitcase should be behind Bill's footsteps, not in front. Sam pushed Bill off the train, then threw his luggage off after. Mrs. Anderson came home from work in the middle of the day because she'd forgotten some important documents. When she went to the bedroom, she saw her husband lying on the bed. There was a paramedic beside him. Mr. Anderson was unconscious, and the doctor explained that he had been poisoned. Luckily, he had had time to call a paramedic before passing out. Mrs. Anderson immediately blocked off the door and called the police. She said there was a fake paramedic in her house who had poisoned her husband. How did she know? You might have noticed that when Mrs. Anderson arrived, there was no ambulance in the driveway. That's super suspicious. William was hit on the head and taken away. When he woke up, he found himself locked in a small room. He tried to open the door, but obviously it was locked. There was nothing in the room except for a wooden box with 12 bottles in it. There was an extra bottle on the floor next to it. William looked everywhere for the key but found nothing. After a bit of thinking, he noticed something. He managed to find the key. Where was it? Look at the bottle on the floor. It's exactly the same as the others, but for some reason, it's a bit lower. There must be a fake floor in the box. That's where the key is. Several women went missing in a small city. The police searched for months, but they couldn't find any trace of them. One day, a detective got lucky. He saw a hooded figure who matched their description, followed it, and found the place where they were being kept hostage. But when he busted in, there were just 3 women. They all said that they had been locked in this small room, but the detective knew that one of them wasn't a victim at all. The first woman said her name was Emery. She had spent around a year in that room. The second woman, Aria, said she had been there about 6 months. The third woman said her name was Brielle and that she had been locked up in there for about 2 months. Can you tell who's lying? Emery's lying. Look at her hair. She just had it dyed, but she's been there a year. Aria's hair is also dyed, but you can see her natural dark roots growing out. After years in college, Stephen came back to his hometown. He met up with a couple of his old friends, Dylan and Harry. Both of them said they're successful bloggers now. To prove it, they showed him screenshots from their most popular videos. Steve took a look at them and could tell that one of his friends was lying. Who's lying and how did Steve know? Harry's lying. The number of views for his video is 2.1 million, but the number of likes is way higher, 4.5 million. That's impossible, or at least really, really suspicious. Harry probably photoshopped that screenshot. Here's a quick joke. 2 geniuses are walking down the street. One genius says to the other, "Hey, you look down in the dumps. What's the gray matter?" I didn't say it was a good joke. Okay, you big-brain person you, here's another challenging quandary of riddles to solve. Ted is a lucky game show winner. He can pick one of the 3 prizes: a brand new Mercedes, a Louis Vuitton purse, or a MacBook. Which one should he choose? Think carefully, he can only get one prize. Look at the Mercedes. Its logo is wrong, so it must be fake. The same goes for the purse. That's what Louis Vuitton's real logo looks like. But the MacBook seems to be okay, at least at first sight. So let's go for it. A car thief appeared in a little town. Every night, a car went missing. First, it was Mr. Smith's red vehicle. The next day, it was Mr. Holmes' pink car. And last night, it was Mrs. Tanner's white Ford. The town's detective is going to stop the criminal. Take a look at the 4 cars that are still out there and help the man understand which car is going to be stolen next. There are 4 cars left: yellow, blue, green, and black. The first car that was stolen was red. The word red has 3 letters. The next one was pink. There are 4 letters in pink. The third vehicle was white, and the word white has 5 letters. It means the next car to be stolen is going to be yellow because there are 6 letters in this word, as best I can count. Mr. Jones was going on vacation. In the evening of his last day at work, he cleaned up his office and left, taking the key with him. When the man came back 2 weeks later, he immediately realized someone had broken into his office while he had been gone. How did he figure it out? Mr. Jones cleaned everything and took out the trash. But have a look at the garbage can now. There's some paper inside. Esme got lost in the forest. She was wandering around all day long and couldn't find a way out. Finally, at dusk, she saw a spooky house where a witch lived. Esme had nowhere else to go, so she entered the house and asked the witch to help her. The witch offered Esme to play a game. "I'll tell you a riddle. If you get the answer right, I'll take you out of the forest. But if you make a mistake, I'll keep you here as my maid forever." Esme had no choice but to agree. Here's what the witch said. "It has cities, but doesn't have a single house. It has mountains, but not a single tree. It has water, but no fish. What is it?" Can you help Esme? It's a map. Students got an assignment for their summer break. They had to start learning a new language. It could be any language they liked. When a new semester started, the teacher asked the students how it had been going. Mark said he had been learning Brazilian and enjoying it. Genevieve said she'd chosen Ukrainian. Ben said he had been learning Arabic. It turned out to be very hard, but interesting. But the teacher didn't believe one of the students. Who was lying? She didn't believe Mark, who had said he had been studying Brazilian. There's no Brazilian language. People speak Portuguese in Brazil. Oliver came back home and found a love letter in his mailbox. It was a very sweet one, but the sender didn't write their name. However, there was a little note at the end. J+1, B-1, R+2, H-3. Oliver has 4 suspects: Jane, Alex, Leah, and Kate. Can you tell which one of them wrote the love letter to Oliver? The note is the hint, of course, and the alphabet is the key. J+1 means the next letter in the alphabet, which is K. B-1 means one letter before B, which is A. 2 letters after R is T, and finally 3 letters before H, there's E. So, the secret admirer is Kate. Well, a very rich gentleman was having his 3-month vacation. 3 months? His mansion was burgled. The police were notified and the detectives started the investigation. There were 3 people caught on the security camera. They were interrogated. Max, the owner's old friend, said he had come several times to collect the mail. Gwen, the housemaid, said she had visited 3 days before to clean the house. Ronnie, the gardener, said he had been coming every week to take care of the garden. All of them denied stealing anything, but the detective didn't believe one of them. Who was lying? He didn't believe Gwen. She said she'd cleaned the house 3 days before. But look around. There's dust and dark stains everywhere. It doesn't look like it's been cleaned recently, so she must be lying. A long time ago, in Norway, a princess was taken away. She was locked in a small room on a tiny island in the middle of a huge lake. Even if she managed to get out of the room, she wouldn't be able to reach the shore. On the island, there were no trees or any tool she could use. It means she couldn't build a boat. And still, half a year later, the princess managed to escape and returned home all by herself. How did she do it? It happened in Norway. It's cold there in the winter. As soon as the lake froze over, the princess walked on the ice and escaped. Mrs. Brown called the hospital and said her husband had been hurt. When the doctor arrived, she led him to the bathroom. The man was lying on the floor inside. She said the bathroom door had been opened, and she saw everything when it happened. Her husband was washing his hands but slipped and hit his head on the sink. The doctor didn't believe her and called the police. Why? Look at how the man's lying. His head is on the opposite side of the sink. He couldn't have fallen like that. A tired mother of 3 daughters came home late after work. She found the kitchen all messy. It seemed one of her daughters made a sandwich but didn't clean after herself. The mother walked upstairs and found all 3 of them doing their homework. She asked who had made the sandwich, but all the girls, Hannah, Della, and Emily, denied making one. Still, the mother could tell who was lying. Look at the kitchen and the girls carefully. Who do you think is guilty? And how did the mother understand who was lying? There's some butter on the right side of the knife. It means the person who made the sandwich is left-handed. There's only one left-handed girl in the family, and that's Emily. So, it must have been her. All the money from the city's bank was stolen right in the middle of the day, but no one noticed that. Several days later, the room where the money used to be stored was found completely empty. There was just one note saying 7718. The police arrested the 3 most known criminals in the city, Bill, Mark, and Cole. But the officers didn't know which of them was guilty. They invited a famous detective to crack the mysterious note, and he managed to do it immediately. Can you do it too? Turn the paper upside down. This way, the numbers turn into a name, Bill. He must be the culprit. Now wait. If Bill isn't quite that dumb to name himself, did someone else frame Bill for the robbery? Hey, just thinking out loud here. Moving on. Devian found his friend Aaron in his room. The guy was poisoned. Devian called the police. When the officers arrived, he told them he had been walking past Oliver's house and noticed the light in his room was on. He came up to the window to check who was inside, his friend or his brother. It was cold and there was frost on the window, so he wiped it away to see who was inside. When Devian saw Oliver lying on the floor, he called the police. The officers didn't believe the guy and immediately arrested him. Why? Devian said he'd wiped the frost off the window to see better, but he couldn't possibly do it. Frost forms on the inner surface of the window. Now, let's check how well you know logos. In each pair, you'll have to pick the correct one. What does the Apple logo look like? Try to recall the one on Ted's MacBook. The second logo is correct. Okay, here's Instagram. Do you remember what its icon looks like? Yes, this small dot must be in the right corner, so the first logo is correct. I bet you see it every day. What's the real Google logo? It's the second one. First the red O, then the yellow one. Which one is the correct Burger King logo? Of course, it's the second one. Now I'm hungry. If you play video games, you must know it. If not, well, try yourself. Which PlayStation logo is correct? The second one. Okay, now, a tough one. Which TikTok logo is correct? It's the first one. Check it out if you don't believe me.
Mary runs a wedding planning company. She arrives at her office early in the morning. Oh no! Someone stole the entire supply of expensive sun-dried tomatoes prepared for the upcoming party.
Oh no.
Mary closed her office at 10 p.m. last night and the snacks were right there. She calls the police. The detective identifies 3 suspects and visits their houses. The guard was on duty last night. He assumes that the thief could have sneaked into the office while he was on another floor. According to the cleaning lady, she's allergic to tomatoes, and she can't even cook them. And a hairdresser who works nearby claims that she closed her salon at 8 p.m. last night and went home right after that. Who's lying? The cleaning lady. She has a tomato plant in a pot on her windowsill, so she lied about her allergy.
Oh.
Meet Mary's 2 wedding planners, Holly and Dolly. Holly is super rich, while Dolly is very broke. Can you tell who is who just by looking at this picture? Take a look at the lady on the left. There's a lot of junk food in her fridge. Meanwhile, the one on the right has less food, but it's healthy and expensive. She chooses quality over quantity, so she must be Holly. And the other one is Dolly.
Oh.
Mary is scrolling her social media and comes across these 2 pictures. One of these families are billionaires. Can you guess who? Each member of the first family has their own Christmas stocking, and they have a nice fireplace. The second family, though, has only 2 stockings, and their fireplace is fake. So the first family is rich.
Oh.
Mary is looking through some photos of wedding parties. Can you tell which newlyweds are broke? The second picture depicts some silky bows and expensive snacks. So the first couple is broke. They use cheap snacks and handmade garland for their wedding party.
Oh.
Take a look at these 2 wedding pictures of Mary's recent clients. One of these couples is very rich. Can you guess which one? The first couple rented their outfits. That's why the sizes don't quite suit them.
Oh.
Meanwhile, the second couple's outfits are more casual, but they're neat and expensive. Mary is visiting an expensive clothing store. She witnesses the following scene. One of these customers is broke, while the other one is a millionaire. Can you tell who is who? The first guy is broke. That's why he hesitates and feels shy while asking about this expensive t-shirt. Meanwhile, the rich guy feels free to ask questions about prices because he can afford everything. But he still wants to know why it costs so much. Reasonable.
Oh my god.
Mary is having lunch at her favorite diner. At the next table, she spots 2 pretty ladies. One of them is super rich. Can you figure out who? The blonde lady has an old smartphone with 1 camera. Meanwhile, the redhead has the latest phone, so she's the rich one.
Oh yes.
Mary leaves the diner and comes across these guys on the street. One of them is just pretending to be broke. Can you guess who? It's this guy. he's wearing an expensive smartwatch. Mary enters a supermarket. 3 pregnant women are standing in the line. Can you figure out who's super rich? The first lady is very pregnant, but she keeps on working, which probably means that she needs the money. And the third one has too many credit cards and coupons. So the second lady, who has a bunch of organic products in her cart, is the one we're looking for. Mary is walking around the city and comes across an open-air concert. One of these musicians is a secret millionaire. Any idea who? This lady. She's wearing diamonds under her simple outfit.
Oh, yeah.
Mary brings a box of chocolates to the office to treat her coworkers. The box had 57 chocolates, out of which all but 17 were eaten. How many chocolates are now in that box? To solve this mystery, we should read the question carefully. The phrase, all but 17 were eaten, means that all except 17 were eaten. Therefore, 17 chocolates remain in the box. Mary attends a luxurious wedding ceremony. She meets these 2 guys in the parking lot. Can you guess who is a millionaire? This guy is a taxi driver, while the second one owns a sports car. So he's a millionaire. Mary enters the party. She goes to the bathroom and sees 2 ladies applying makeup. Can you figure out whose husband is richer? The woman on the right is using fake Gucci makeup. Therefore, the one on the left must have a richer husband.
Oh my God.
Mary takes a seat next to 3 guys. They want to impress her and start bragging about their money. Richard has just closed a 6-figure deal, so he's planning to buy a new penthouse. Harold has just returned from a round-the-world trip. He invites Mary to join him next time. And Anthony claims that his family owns a huge corporation, so he has never worked a day in his entire life. One of them is lying. Can you guess who? Richard. He stole a golden fork from the table and hid it in the pocket of his jacket. Why would he do that if he's rich?
Oh no.
Mary gets an emergency message from the kitchen. Someone ruined the wedding cake. She goes there and interrogates 3 suspects. The chef says, I left my workplace for 5 minutes to go to the toilet. When I left, everything was fine. When I returned, disaster. The cleaning lady says, I washed all the dishes in the kitchen. I had no time to even look at the cake. And the waiter says, I was dealing with one annoying guest, so I didn't pay attention to the cake. Sorry. Who's lying? The cleaning lady said she washed all the dishes, but there are still dirty dishes in the sink. Busted! Mary is searching for a perfect location to host the next wedding party. She finds 4 available options, but only one of them is a safe deal. Can you help her make the right choice? The first restaurant looks chic and fancy, but there are cockroaches on the ceiling. Ew. According to the info box, the second location will be built in the next century, but it looks pretty ancient, so it's probably a scam.
Oh.
The fourth restaurant is nice, but it has leaking pipes.
No.
Thus, Mary should choose the third option.
Yes!
Mary goes to see the location. She explores the basement and gets lost.
Oh my god.
Mary finds herself locked in a room without windows or ceiling.
Oh god.
The room starts filling up with water pretty fast. The walls are 15 feet above the floor. But Mary can't swim. There are 3 objects in this room: a wooden barrel that is 3 feet tall, a 4-foot-high bike, and a 5-foot-long rope. Mary is 6 feet tall. Can you help her find a way to survive? She should hold on to the barrel, as it'll float. When the water rises enough, she'll be able to climb over the wall.
Okay.
The landlord offers Mary a huge discount if she cracks his riddle. A rich house and a poor house are both on fire. In which house will the police fight the fire first? Mary nailed it right away. What about you? The police don't fight fires. The firefighters do. Mary's 2 besties send her selfies. They're both bragging about their new expensive dresses. One of them is broke, while the other one is a millionaire. Can you guess who is who? The second lady is broke. She has a Chanel logo on her clothes, but she didn't remove the price tag. So she probably just took this picture at the store and left without buying it.
Oh.
It's been a long day. Mary's finally heading home. Suddenly, she sees these guys on the way.
Oh.
Can you spot a rich guy among them? This guy has a car. Marcus is a lucky game show winner. He can choose one of 3 prizes: a brand new Mercedes, an expensive laptop, or a designer wallet. What do you think is the best choice? Comment below. Look at this Mercedes. The logo is crooked. The car must be fake. The same goes for the wallet. This logo is supposed to be written in a different way. That's what the real logo looks like. But the laptop seems to be okay. The logo is correct. So, Marcus should probably opt for this device. On a rainy evening, Megan came home and found that someone had eaten her chocolate bar. She asked her sisters whether one of them had done it. Maria said she'd been working out in her room and hadn't left it the whole day. Amelia said she would never eat someone else's chocolate. And Emma answered that she'd been outside, watering plants in the garden. She'd just come home herself. Help Megan find out the truth and share your ideas in the comments. It must be Emma. Why would she need to water plants outside if it's raining? Kayla was staying at a hotel in Paris. One day, someone broke into her room and took all her expensive stuff. The police had 3 suspects. Alan said that he had been trying to pour himself some coffee downstairs, but with his arm in a sling, it had been extremely tricky. Marie told the police that she had been at the reception trying to solve some issues with her shower. And Bruce said that he had been sleeping. Help the detectives figure out who's guilty and leave them a message in the comments. Alan broke into Kayla's room. Look at his cast. He's wearing it over his sweater. It must be fake. Detective Morton has received wedding pictures of 2 newlywed couples from a client. He knows that both couples got married on the same beach in the Maldives. It's famous for its beautiful sunsets. But one of these couples is indeed very rich, while the other is broke. For some unfathomable reason, the detective client wants to know which couple has money. If you figure it out faster than Morton and write your answer in the comments, the detective will probably have to give you his badge. The guys on the right are wearing very simple wedding suits, but they're indeed celebrating their wedding on the beach. But if you take a closer look at the couple on the left, you'll soon realize the lighting on their fancy clothes and faces doesn't match the background. Plus, you can spot a few green screen fragments at the edges of the picture. Their photo isn't real. They can't afford to go to the Maldives in real life. They're broke. Mark found himself in the middle of a forest with 3 paths in front of him. The first one was covered with burning hot coals. The second path was so cold that it felt like Antarctica under his feet. And the third path was covered with sharp nails that were able to pierce any footwear. Tell Mark in the comments which path he should choose. The guy should pick the third path. All that ice is bound to be gone soon since it's too close to hot coals. Adam was driving home late at night when he noticed he was about to run out of gas. He stopped at a gas station to fill his gas tank and buy some snacks. Inside, there was a cashier and another customer dressed in black. When Adam came up to the employee to pay, she told him $505. Adam paid, went outside, and called the police to report an emergency. If you have any idea why he did so, comment below. You probably noticed that the cash register actually showed $18.35, but the cashier said $505, which looks like SOS. Detective Brown rushed to an expensive restaurant. Someone had stolen a gold spoon there. If the detective didn't find the real culprit, the waiter would have big problems. Luckily, there were still a lot of people in the restaurant, and Detective Brown questioned the main suspects. A group of friends said they were celebrating a birthday. They wouldn't spoil their party this way. A cheerful man said he'd been walking in the area and had dropped by to check out this place. And a miserable-looking guy answered that his wife had left him, and he had come to the restaurant to take his mind off his problems. You must help the detective to find the criminal. When you do, write your answer in the comments faster than the others. The second man lied. He'd said he'd been to the restaurant for the first time, but look, he's wearing a hat with the restaurant's logo. Gotcha! Adam's car broke down right in the middle of a deserted forest road. But the worst thing was that it was winter, snowdrifts were huge, and the wind was freezing cold. Adam had to get to the nearest town, and fast. But if he followed the first path, he'd have to deal with hungry wolves. The second road went through the area inhabited by bears, and if he took the third path, he'd have to cross a river covered with thin ice. You need to help the guy as fast as possible and tell him what road he should opt for in the comments. Adam should sneak through the bear's territory. These animals usually sleep in the winter. Liza was a millionaire's daughter. She was fed up with her father trying to control her life. After he told her one day he'd found a fiancé for her, she decided to run away from home. The girl knew her father would send his people to bring her back, so she never stayed in one hotel for more than one night. Once, she found herself in a small town. It was getting dark, and she had no choice but to stop at the first hotel she saw. The receptionist said that her room number was 910 and offered to show her where it was. Liza immediately grabbed her bag, ran out of the hotel, jumped in her car, and speeded away. If you can write in the comments the reason for such a weird reaction, you deserve the title of the true detective. The first digit of a hotel room number usually means the floor it's on. Room 910 is supposed to be on the 9th floor, but look at the hotel. It only has 3 floors. Young fashion designer Bruno was preparing for his first show. He was a bit anxious, so he took a break to steady his nerves. But when it was time for him to present his collection, no one could find him. In an hour, a security guard saw him in the bathroom, lying on the floor. Someone had hit him on the head. The police had 3 suspects. Maya, one of the models, said she had had problems with her dress and hadn't even had time to leave the dressing room. Catherine, one of the guests, said that she was Bruno's biggest fan and had been wearing his clothes for years. Apparently, she had no reason to hit him. Sam, the designer's assistant, said he had rushed to the nearest coffee shop to get Bruno an Americano to calm him down. Who is the culprit? Share your ideas in the comments. It was Catherine. That day, it was Bruno's first show. Then how could she be wearing his clothes for years? Richard had a collection of beautiful paintings. One day, while he was away, his favorite one got stolen. The police suspected one of Richard's neighbors. Nicole said she'd been out of town. She returned home just an hour ago and was so tired after a long drive that she immediately went to bed. Dennis said he had been getting ready to paint his house, but since it didn't seem the rain would stop anytime soon, he went to the movies instead. Julie answered that her sister had been feeling unwell. That's why Julie was busy looking after her little nephew. Take that magnifying glass of yours and tell us the truth. Who's guilty? It was Nicole. It had been raining for the whole day. If the woman had returned home just an hour before, the road under her car would be wet.
Martin wakes up locked in a basement. The man has no idea how he got there. Probably through a hatch in the ceiling. There are 3 doors leading out of the room. Behind the first one, there's a deep pit with metal spikes at the bottom. The second door leads to a lake with hungry piranhas. And behind the third door, there are crocodiles. But the worst thing is that the room is starting to fill with water. You need to help Martin, and fast. So write in the comments what the poor guy should do to save his life. Martin should open the first door. The pit will begin to fill up with water, and eventually the guy will be able to swim over the spikes. We've got one more person, Elisa, trapped in a room that's being filled with water, coming from a tap in the wall. There are no windows in the room, and the door is blocked. Elisa only has a mop and a big bucket. If you know how to save her life, comment below. It's actually not so dangerous. Elisa just needs to turn off the tap. Nick was sailing around the world on his yacht when he got caught in a terrible storm. At one point, he hit his head against the mast and lost consciousness. When he came round, he found himself on the beach, surrounded by unfriendly-looking locals who definitely didn't like foreigners. They offered Nick 3 options: sending him to a cave filled with tarantulas, throwing him into a pit filled with yellow scorpions, or taking him to meet several hungry lions. If you don't write in the comments which option the guy should choose, it might end badly for him. Nick should opt for the tarantulas, since they're mostly harmless to people. Look at this volcano. It's about to erupt. Unfortunately, Lauren has just 1 seat in her sports car, but there are 3 people who want to get as far away from the volcano as possible. Who should the girl save? A young, handsome guy? A rich woman? Or a granny? While the guy and the woman are young and can move fast, capable of running away, the elderly lady won't make it. Lauren should give her a lift, but if you disagree, write your opinion in the comments. Look at these teachers. One of them is a vampire. You need to react fast to save their students from untimely demise. The teacher on the left has some tan lines, but vampires are afraid of sunlight. The one on the right has a cast on her leg. He's unlikely to be a vampire. But the one in the middle has all her body covered. She's even wearing gloves. She must be the vampire we're looking for since she's afraid of sun rays touching her skin. Melanie invited her colleague Maria for dinner. Maria was surprised since she thought Melanie didn't like her. But Melanie prepared a very nice meal. She cut the fish in half and each of the women ate their portions. Sometime later, Maria paled and lost consciousness. She was taken to a hospital. It was bad food poisoning. Several days later, police arrested Melanie for trying to poison Maria. Write in the comments how she managed to do it. After all, the women ate the same dishes. The poison was on one side of the knife Melanie used to cut the fish. This way, only the piece of tuna she gave Maria was poisoned. Look at this picture very attentively. One of these people has just stolen a penguin. If you can figure out who the thief is, write "got it" in the comments. The first man has obviously come to feed the penguins. The lady is really pregnant. As for the young guy, he has a heavy backpack, which is leaking. The penguin must be inside. Look at these people. One of the women isn't a real wife. If you can answer correctly in the comments which one it is, you're a true detective. Both of these women have rings, but the blonde lady knows the exact size of her husband's briefcase, so the lunch she's prepared will definitely fit in. As for the second woman, she must be his sister. They have identical birthmarks. 4 friends went out for lunch. They ate the same food, but 2 of them got food poisoning. Why are the rest fine? Switch on that inner detective of yours and write your answer in the comments below. Those 2 who were fine after the meal didn't drink coffee. The drinks were poisoned, not the food. These ladies went to enjoy some ice cream together, but after that, one of them got sick. Can you tell us why? The woman who later got sick had berries on top of her ice cream. The other ladies ate ice cream with cinnamon. Michelle was about to leave her office when she received a message from the building security that a dangerous criminal had sneaked inside. The woman needed to get out of there as soon as possible. She was running towards the elevators when both of them simultaneously opened their doors. Inside, there were suspicious-looking guys. Which elevator would you opt for? Share in the comments. Michelle decided to run to the second elevator. The criminal had just entered the building, so he wouldn't be coming from upstairs. Criminals kidnapped 3 bank workers to get secret financial information from them. The bankers were locked in a basement with only one window high above the floor. The men decided that at least one of them had to escape and warn the police. The men stood on each other's shoulders, but the one on top still couldn't reach the window. Do you have a solution to this problem you could share with us? The tallest of the bankers should climb on top. This man most likely has the longest arms, so he will be able to manage to reach the window. Luke took part in a scientific experiment, but something went wrong, and he ended up in a place where there was nothing but 3 portals. One of them led to a polar desert in Antarctica. The second one opened into a volcanic crater filled with molten lava. And behind the third portal, there was the dinosaur age with huge diplodocuses roaming around. Which portal would you jump through? Tell us in the comments. Luke would instantly freeze in a polar desert. Molten lava isn't even an option. But diplodocuses are totally harmless to people. They only eat plants. Once, a prison guard accidentally overheard very disturbing rumors. One of the most dangerous criminals was planning a prison break. The guard watched the footage from the surveillance cameras and discovered that two women had been behaving suspiciously. One of them was a former bodybuilder, muscular, with short hair and covered in tattoos. The other was quiet and reserved. She preferred to spend time on her own. After watching the video several times, the guard managed to figure out which woman was planning to escape. Are you as attentive as the guard? Prove it by writing your version in the comments. The second prisoner is planning an escape. If you look attentively, you'll notice a file in her hair bun. She can use it to get through the metal bars.